1410, Northern Europe. At Malbork Castle, a powerful order of Crusader knights is making a desperate stand. An army intent on driving the Crusaders out of the region once and for all has attacked this stronghold. The knights are relying on these massive walls to be their salvation and their protection. If they lose Malbork, they lose everything. For 1,000 years, castles have dominated the landscape and everything around them. I'm Dan Snow, and together we're going to explore the sites of some of the greatest sieges of the Middle Ages. The very moment when the fates of empires hung on castle walls. This is Battle Castle. Malbork Castle. This stronghold stands on the east bank of the River Nogat in modern-day Poland. Today, this amazing red brick castle is in the bustling town of Malbork. Back in the 15th century, it's known as Marienburg, and it plays host to one of the defining clashes of medieval Europe. Malbork Castle is the crowning glory of the Teutonic Knights. Built of some 10 million bricks, its elaborate rooms are protected by layers of defense. Covered battlements, deep moats, and towering walls. Outside these castle walls, the attacking army has amassed an arsenal of siege engines. Their goal? To smash through the walls and seize the castle. Inside, the defending knights, outnumbered 7-1, are determined to put up a fight. The Battle of Malbork Castle is about to begin. But the story of this spectacular fortification begins 150 years earlier. The Teutonic Knights, a German military and religious order, originally established to help Christians on pilgrimages and crusades in the Holy Land, have returned to Europe. By order of their Grand Master, they are now in Prussia, northeast Europe's wild frontier. They are waging a new crusade in the Baltic, intent on converting the Prussian pagans to Christianity. Teutonic Knights have shifted their focus away from the Holy Land. They've taken up the invitation to crusade against the pagan tribes of Prussia, and they expect to keep any of the land they conquer. As the knights move in, they impose their control. Often by force. Slowly, the Crusaders gain ground. The knights plan to secure their newly acquired territory with a string of castles. One of the sites selected is the low-lying bank on the east side of the River Nogat, 40 kilometers away from the Baltic. Building next to a river is key. They're the main means for transport and communication in this region, and the Nogat is no exception. Here, the knights turn what appears to be a great disadvantage into a strength. Because most castles are built on high ground, the design needs to be tailored to the geography of that place. But this region is so flat that one design can be used over and over again, almost like a medieval prefab. The Knights come up with a standard blueprint for nearly all their new castles. A fortified quadrangle with elaborate moats, massive exterior walls, and a dominant tower. Medieval castles are normally built out of stone, but that isn't an option here. This entire region is devoid of workable supplies of building stone. The only exceptions are river boulders, which are extremely scarce. So the Knights turn to the ground beneath their feet for their building material. The clay. They will bake this soft material into hard blocks and build their castles from bricks. The Knights summon brickworkers and architects to implement their building plans on a vast scale. The Knights light up brick-firing kilns at Malbork and all across Prussia and start an epic castle-building program. The use of these bricks is particularly impressive at Malbork Castle. This elaborate architecture is testament to the Teutonic Order's religious and Germanic roots. Here in the Baltic, they build castles in striking new ways. These beautiful red bricks have so many advantages. First of all, they're relatively small, so they can be fit together in all sorts of complex and strong architectural patterns. But they're also very durable. Archaeologists have found bricks thousands of years old that are still in their original condition. And the real strength of this wall lies in expert bricklayers laying them neatly in a particular shape. By 1300, Malbork Castle, along with over 20 other castles, dominate the landscape. The Teutonic Knights have subdued the Prussian pagans and converted them to Christianity. The Knights have built an impressive network of fortifications to protect their lands. But this is not the end of their ambition. Now they intend to extend their crusade into neighbouring lands. But glory will not come without a fight. This fresh crusade will start a chain of events that will ultimately see the Knights in a new war. One that will put their leader and this castle on the front line. It's the start of the 14th century, and the Holy Order of Teutonic Knights has captured Prussia and converted the pagans to Christianity, sometimes by force. The Knights now control a huge area thanks to a network of powerful castles. Until now, the leader of the Knights, the Grand Master, has been based in Venice. But in 1309, he makes a momentous decision to make Prussia their permanent home. And he decides to make his capital here at Malbork. The castle is at the very heart of their territory. This is the High Castle. It's really the headquarters of the Teutonic Knights, and it's the source of their military, but also their spiritual strength. This was the place that they could come to worship their god and prepare for the afterlife. It's here in the chapter room at Malbork Castle that the grandeur of the order is best preserved. Full of imagery and iconography, it's where the Council of the Teutonic Order debate and settle on all key decisions. By exporting amber, grain and timber, the Grand Master and his knights have become fabulously wealthy. And this room here really shows off that wealth. The incredible carvings, murals and stained glass, the intricate floor tiles, and this state-of-the-art heating system. Chamber systems positioned below ground use a two-step process to heat key locations in the castle. First, wood in the lower chamber is burned to heat up stones in the upper chamber. The smoke is expelled through a shaft. Once the stones are hot and the fire burns down, the vents are opened and the warm air is released. It's a real contrast now to be deep underground in the depths of the castle rather than on those towering battlements. This is just some of the incredible technology you had in this castle. One of 13 of these kilns designed to provide a central heating system. They put tons of wood under here and they heat these stones up, and that provides a regular heat source. From ceiling to floor, these rooms demonstrate the dual purpose that this castle served. Headquarters for the Teutonic Knights, as well as a major defensive stronghold built to withstand large-scale attacks. This castle is about to become the center of a huge military campaign. The Knights have begun another crusade, this time against the non-Christian tribes of neighboring Lithuania. With this in mind, the Grand Master sets about transforming Malbork Castle into a military structure of unprecedented scale and power. At its heart, the original upper castle will be enlarged with higher walls. The only way in is over a drawbridge. Next, a middle castle will also be built, which is protected by another wall with defensive towers and an entrance with no fewer than 5 iron-barred gates. Then comes the forecastle, which will cover a huge area. This will be a whole military complex with a hospital, workshop, stables, even factories, all surrounded by yet another enormous brick wall. On top of these high walls, the Knights use clay to their advantage once again. They build overhanging roofs. Peter Purton, historian and author, explains. So this is an unusual structure here. I mean, what's the purpose of these sort of roofs?
Well, I think it has a number of different purposes. One is a purely functional one. It's a good defence against attack. It's made of tile, so it can't burn. And then we've got the very practical function, of course. It can be cold, damp and miserable, and so it provides a very important protection against the elements for the people who have to patrol the wall walks during the castle's normal day-to-day existence. It's also, I think, has a symbolic purpose. When the Knights first arrived in the area, the first castles they built were in timber. When they'd been here long enough to feel secure, they started saying, let's build in something, a permanent material.
So building out of tiles and brick is a statement. We're here to stay.
That's right. It's a statement of permanence. It's a message to the local population. We're not going anywhere.
In the Middle Ages, firing enough tiles to cover Malbork's walls would have been an incredible undertaking. In Guédelon, France, they're using medieval techniques to make similar tiles to roof a castle that's being built today. And I've come to see how it's done. He's digging out clay. I'm going to give him a hand. Merci. As soon as that basket's full, I'm just going to wheel it over to the workshop, a couple metres that way. They're going to make some tiles. Okay. Workers place the clay into a mould. This mound here is the kiln, and they're just loading it up now with clay roof tiles that they're going to fire. These have been drying off in the sun for about 3 days, and it takes 2 days to load all 3,500 of them into this kiln, all carefully placed in exactly the right position so that the heat can circulate and they can all get baked right through. It'll be about 1,000 degrees Celsius in here when they fire this kiln up. Just an incredible process. You've got to be constantly vigilant because this fire eats up the wood. So you've got to have people here feeding it up, and that is hot work. At Guédelon, firing a batch of tiles can take up to 16 hours and brings out the reddish hue of brick and tiles. Here they are, the final result. These amazing tiles, totally manufactured from materials found no more than a few hundred meters from where I'm standing now. At Malbork, tile and brick provide cover for archers who will use one of the deadliest weapons of the era, the crossbow. In the Middle Ages, archers at Malbork Castle didn't just have small crossbows, they also had some of the latest medieval weaponry, the heavyweight crossbow. Crossbows are so important to the Teutonic Knights. Their castle will have workshops capable of building them from scratch. An inventory of Malbork at the time says that there is enough material in the castle to build 1,200 crossbows. And that includes animal hinds, billy goat horns, even elk bone. Making these crossbows is a very complex process. What is this beast here?
This is one of your heavyweight crossbows.
That is really heavy. So this is... I've come to Warwick in England, so Kevin Hicks, a weapons expert, can show me how to shoot a crossbow.
An arrow slit.
Ideally, you'd have a... In medieval times, crossbows like this could measure up to 1.5 meters long and up to 2 meters wide. The larger they were, the further they could shoot. So how does this compare to a smaller crossbow?
Different machine. I've got one here. Now this can be shot from the back of a horse, moving infantry, but it is light powered.
That's a lot smaller than this one.
Oh gosh, you see the thickness of it, you can compare the two. If you look at this, it's twice as deep and almost twice as thick, I would say, especially in the centre.
And could it punch through armour?
This is one of the reasons armour developed, to deflect lance points, arrows, but more importantly, these things.
Nasty little thing, isn't it?
Yeah. This is, if you like, in the archery world, it's the heavy artillery. This is your sniper. Load it, you rest it, and then you watch. You see somebody who's worthy of a target, a knight, then you shoot him.
So do you think I can have a go?
Are you brave enough?
I hope so. How do I do it?
Put your foot in the stirrup. Make sure this is on the raw hide, and very gently now, just wind him. Nice little click. Right, reverse it now. Right, you hold the crossbow, mind the trigger. You bring him back onto the string. You bring him up into the aim, just like shooting a rifle. But you bring the lever up, nice and slow. If I was you, I'd aim a little bit low.
Oh, wow, that is... you can really feel that power, can't you?
It's a killer, isn't it?
Wow. During the Middle Ages, the crossbow is regarded as a particularly vicious weapon. In fact, one church council called it deadly and hated by God. But when they weren't trying to ban it, church leaders were making dispensations for its use. They decided that Christians could use it as long as it wasn't against other Christians. So for the Teutonic Knights who've been up here fighting the pagan tribesmen, they've been using it since the beginning of the crusade without remorse. But walls and crossbows aren't all this castle has to defend it. On the west side of the fortification, the River Nogat presents a logistical challenge. The River Nogat is a vital artery for transporting supplies, but it can be a barrier when they're trying to bring men and material in from the west by land. So what the knights need to do is find a reliable way to cross it. The Grand Master commissions an ambitious project, a guarded bridge. It emerges from the castle's enormous twin-towered gateway. This bridge is the first of its kind ever to be built over the River Nogat. The knights take this bridge system one step further. At the other end, they build a barbican. That's believed to be the only structure of this kind ever added to a brick-built castle in this region. But with so much here at stake, it's a design modification that's entirely appropriate. With the river protecting the castle on one side, the knights decide to add further water defences. These ditches are dry now, but originally they would all have been part of the extensive moat system. The Nogat River is on lower ground than the castle, so water was sourced from a lake several kilometres away. And the moats served another important purpose in the everyday life of the castle. So this is a cavernous space. What would have been in here?
Well, this was a very important part of the design of the castle. It was actually the castle's toilet.
Oh, really?
If you look up, you can see the discharge chutes from which the the occupants of the castle carried out their natural bodily functions, and there was a moat running here along the bottom which carried it away.
So all the human waste would have come down these walls, landed on a moat, and was the moat connected to the river, or?
It was, yes. It would flow out through the walls here and down towards the river. The Teutonic Knights, all their castles have this kind of feature, but this is the biggest and grandest of them all, and it's spectacularly successful, I think, in achieving its objective.
Some believe that these towers could also act as a final refuge during a siege. By the late 14th century, Malbork is complete. It's the most incredible brick-built fortification in the world. It's a grand statement of the Teutonic Knights' power and of their intention to keep the lands they have claimed as their own. It's a religious, administrative and military headquarters all combined in one spectacular fortified complex. Malbork combines with the other red brick castles to make up one of the densest networks of fortifications in all of Europe. These castles actually contain a relatively small garrison, but they're nearly all situated within 1 day's march of each other. So if one of them gets besieged, the garrisons of the other can come to their rescue. With this system in place, the Grand Master and his men dominate the region. The Teutonic Knights are in a golden age, but soon all this will change, because a powerful new ruler is determined to end the Teutonic Knights' aggressive domination. And he's ready to challenge the Crusaders to their most epic battle yet. At the end of the 14th century, the Teutonic Knights are the wealthy rulers of an empire covering Prussia and parts of Lithuania. Their lands are protected with a chain of recently completed castles, the most impressive of which is at Malbork. But as they were building, the nature of siege warfare changes. Gunpowder has made its way to the Baltic region, and so have the cannons that are powered by it. The Grand Master recognises the value of this new military technology, and he imposes it on a massive scale. All the castles of Prussia armed with cannon. Here at Malbork, they're actually made on site. One particular cannon here, a contemporary chronicler tells us, was so big the likes of it had never been seen in any German land, firing these massive stone cannonballs. But the Teutonic Knights aren't the only ones with these new weapons. In the summer of 1410, 39,000 soldiers are marching into the lands of the Teutonic Knights. Equipped with the latest siege weapons, they too have cannon in their arsenal. Their leader, Jagiello, the King of Poland. The king has joined forces with the Grand Duke of Lithuania, and together they're determined to put an end to campaigning in this region by the Crusaders. Their target is the hub of the network of red brick fortresses in the area, Malbork. When they're only days away, the Knights Grand Master makes a bold decision. Instead of waiting for the enemy to arrive, he leads an army of 27,000 out to confront his adversaries head-on. By moving out from his headquarters here at Malbork, he's leaving behind all these incredibly impressive defences. These thick red brick walls, the covered galleries for the archers, and the large bodies of water. He and his army are now vulnerable to the uncertain perils of the open battlefield. It is a huge risk. As the days pass, the Grand Master gets word of his enemy's progress. The news is bad. The King of Poland has attacked a nearby city, burnt it and terrorised its inhabitants. A chronicler tells us that young and old were killed, young women were dishonoured, tortured, and then everyone was carted off into serfdom. The Grand Master is desperate to make his enemies pay. The Grand Master intends to stop the invaders before they reach Malbork. The two opposing forces meet on July the 15th at Tannenberg. The Grand Master has managed to intercept his enemies before they could reach Malbork, but it's come at a cost. His own army is hungry and sleepless from their relentless march. It's also unusually warm. Still, his men have no choice but to stand in their order of battle until the commander gives the word. Both sides wield crossbows. And there's artillery. Among the ranks, a small caliber cannon. These guns can fire a half-pound ball of stone. They're relatively portable, but their range is limited. They're called towers or terraced guns, named after the wooden or earth base on which they rest. And they're a manifestation of a revolution that's sweeping across the world. On the battlefield, with both sides assembled, according to the contemporary chroniclers, the Poles mount an orderly advance, while the Lithuanians charge wildly forwards. The enormity of a medieval battlefield, the crush of tens of thousands of bodies, means that for most people, the world extends only to what is within arm's reach. From that bone-jarring opening thunder of the artillery, the confusion from the men on the front line to the commanders can hardly be described. For hours, the battle rages back and forth. The Lithuanians are forced to retreat, and the Teutonic Knights break their lines and pursue them. The Polish forces, seeing a break in their enemy's front, mount an attack and crash through their ranks. The outcome hangs in the balance. Under pressure at the Battle of Tallenberg, the Teutonic Knights' Grand Master decides to mount a last-ditch attempt to kill the Polish king Jagiello. The Grand Master rallies his men into a wedge shape and charges towards the king. If they can kill him, the day could still be theirs. It's said that the Grand Master knew that the horses were so exhausted that if the attack failed, they'd be too tired to carry the knights off the battlefield. But in this situation, he needs to have the courage to risk all. The knights are struck down before they even reach Jagiello's royal bodyguards. The Grand Master has lost this final gamble. The king's troops then turn on the disordered survivors as they try to escape. The Teutonic Knights are unable to get off the battlefield, hemmed in by horses, fleeing men, and wagons. It's a massacre. By the end of July the 15th, 1410, one of the biggest battles in medieval history has come to an end. The Teutonic Knights have suffered a terrible defeat. Some 8,000 soldiers have been killed, and so has their Grand Master. The outcome of this battle is so shocking that people find it hard to fathom. Historians tell us that questions fly around Europe asking how the mighty Teutonic Knights failed so profoundly. Many don't even really believe it, and out here on the frontier, some dismiss it as downright crazy talk. But one thing's for sure, they can't hide from the truth for long. The combined forces of King Jagiello of Poland and the Grand Duke of Lithuania have triumphed, but the real prize still lies ahead. If they are to permanently vanquish the Crusaders, they must seize the Teutonic Knights' mightiest stronghold, Malbork Castle. The The King and the Grand Duke take their time. After the battle, they give their armies 2 days rest. It's hardly surprising. Thousands of their men are wounded, and those that aren't are dead tired. They can't have been looking forward to resuming their march. When they do resume the campaign, they travel only 9 miles a day. For a foreign army on the move, the terrain here is like a battle in itself. In these dense woods with few roads, it's easy to get lost, and the low-lying ground, the mud, often gets so waterlogged that it's hard enough to march across, almost impossible to drag a cart. At this pace, it will be more than a week before they reach Malbork. But for Jagiello, there are a few pleasant surprises along the way. While on the march, the King's army confront 3 of the Teutonic Knights' smaller castles. None puts up a fight. With every step he takes towards Malbork, he feels more and more confident that he's going to capture the stronghold and drive out the Teutonic Knights. In fact, he even promises the Grand Duke a group of fortifications in the north that he hasn't even conquered yet. But what he doesn't know is that all available manpower has fallen back to Malbork for a desperate final stand. Their leader is Heinrich von Plauen. Von Plauen comes out of nowhere. Left to defend one of the Knights' smaller castles while the Grand Master rode to Tannenberg, he's spared his leader's fate on the battlefield. There's nothing about this man that suggested he'd be anything more than just an average commander. But now when he hears about the huge losses, he takes charge, the fate of the Teutonic Knights in his hands. After receiving word of the disastrous defeat at Tannenberg, he collects his garrison and makes for Malbork, arriving 8 days before the enemy. He rallies the castle's own garrison, who, devastated by the news of the defeat at Tannenberg, are ready to surrender. He also recruits other Teutonic Knights from neighbouring castles. At the castle, von Plauen's impromptu garrison are rushing to prepare for the attack. They gather up all the perishables, they corral all the livestock within the safety of the castle walls, and then they review all of the defensive arrangements for Malbork Castle. But as he prepares for the coming attack, von Plauen faces a difficult choice. To the south of the castle, the town could provide shelter and supplies to Jagiello and the Grand Duke. He must find a way to eliminate this threat, or it will help the very enemy that he hopes to defeat. He could try to defend it, but knows he may not have enough men. But there is another option. Von Plauen has made a bold move to ensure the town's resources do not fall into the hands of the enemy. He's burnt it to the ground. This also means he doesn't have to waste troops manning the town's outer wall, and he's cleared an area in front of the castle walls to make sure they have nowhere to hide during the coming siege. Perhaps most of all, he's shown the extreme lengths he's willing to go to protect the Knights' stronghold. 11 days after the epic Battle of Tannenberg, the combined forces of the Polish king and the Grand Duke of Lithuania arrive at Malbork Castle. They must have expected to find Malbork theirs for the taking, but instead what they see is a garrison ready to fight to the death. To the south, the town is burned to the ground. Only the church remains. On the west side of the castle, the knights also set the bridge ablaze. So that too cannot fall into enemy hands. The king's hopes for an easy victory have gone up in smoke. He's going to have to lay siege to one of the most powerful and well-defended castles in Europe. The castle's high walls make them virtually impossible to scale, and the surrounding water make undermining a dismal option. So the attackers resort to bombardment. Having set up camp, Jagiello and the Grand Duke position their cannon. This is a fantastic observation point up here, isn't it?
Yes, it would be really important for the defenders to have a view of the attackers all around the castle.
And where would the attackers' main effort have been?
Well, we think probably their main attack came from this side here, the side of the town. In the town, of course, you've got the church over there, which is a stone building, strong point, and that quite possibly would have been used as a base by the besieging forces. They would have deployed forces on the other side of the River Nogat, with a view to preventing access by boat. You had the site of the bridge across the river here with the twin towers that can be seen in front of the castle here. And you could also, of course, shoot at this high castle from over there.
But you need a big army to achieve the kind of seal around this castle that you need for a good siege, wouldn't you?
Yes, you'd like to sort of close it up like you'd put a cork in a bottle. You have to stop the defenders getting support and supplies in from elsewhere. Controlling the river was a very important part of keeping the place under siege.
Jagiello's mission is clear: to lay siege to Malbork and cut off the castle from the outside world. His cannon pound the mighty red brick fortifications. He needs to breach the wall before their armies run out of supplies or ammunition. Inside the castle, the remnants of the Order of the Teutonic Knights must have felt like they were facing certain defeat. July 1410. King Jagiello of Poland and the Grand Duke of Lithuania are besieging Malbork Castle, the greatest fortification of the Order of Teutonic Knights. Their cannon keep up a relentless bombardment.
And here we have evidence, possibly, of the effects of the bombardment caused by cannonballs. We can't prove that they're definitely from 1410, but local tradition has it that they are.
Well, it makes sense, because the artillery would have been over there, and so they would have been shooting at these towers here, these walls here.
That's right. The cannon would have been the other side of the River Nogat in that direction, and the shot would have come in. And the tower here would have been the obvious target. If you were on the other side of the river with your guns, looking over the outer wall, you could see this tower rearing up, so it's the obvious thing to shoot at.
There's a couple that are perfectly round-shaped, almost like a cannonball. It's too good to be true. It's great evidence.
They really do look like that. It's hard to think what else could have caused it. But it's also interesting because it demonstrates the strength of the wall, because they've made a dent, but that's all. They haven't shattered the surrounding bricks, and they haven't penetrated the depth of the wall.
Inside the castle, von Plauen, the knight's commander, is desperately seeking reinforcement. He's sending out letters all over Germany. It's said to all princes, barons, men-at-arms, and all other loyal Christians, appealing for their help. Usually in times like this, reinforcements could be expected from the neighbouring red brick castle, but now, following the disastrous losses at Tannenberg, the Teutonic Order is gravely weakened. Besides, any of the knights that are in the area are already here at Malbork, fighting for their future. After days of bombardment, Malbork's walls still stand defiant. But King Jagiello's efforts are gaining attention. The who's who of Prussia are stopping by to pay homage to the king, a man they're convinced is going to drive the Teutonic Knights out of Malbork Castle and this region for good. Von Plauen, the knight's commander, surely knows that the castle can't withstand the siege forever. So, according to one account, he decides to confront the enemy head-on. His goal is to destroy Jagiello's cannon before the cannon destroy him. The assault is disastrous for the Teutonic Knights. King Jagiello's men are waiting for them. Those knights who escape slaughter race back to safety. It seems that the king's forces, buoyed up by their success, chase the retreating garrison back towards the castle. But this pursuit comes at a deadly cost. As they approach one section of the wall, it's been weakened by cannon fire, and it collapses, injuring many of them. And they're also hit by arrows shot from the battlements of the castle. But despite the death of some of the pursuing Polish forces, von Plauen's sortie has failed to eliminate Jagiello's cannon. They continue to pound Malbork's walls. So von Plauen tries a different approach: diplomacy. He sends Jagiello a message requesting a meeting. Von Plauen has a proposal for the king. Abandon the siege and he could hold on to all the land that he'd conquered, leaving the Teutonic Knights with whatever land they still had hold of. But apparently this was not well received. The historic account says that the Poles were so puffed up with pride that they not only rejected this offer, but they demanded that von Plauen gave up Malbork Castle and all the other towns and castles that he still had in his hands. The king's rejection of von Plauen's proposals probably helped the Teutonic Knights in the long term. Since their only option is now total surrender, they decide to fight. Just a few days after the leaders meet, they leave the castle again and attack the cannons. This time it's a smashing success. They capture the commander of the artillery out there, wound many of his men, and destroy some of his siege engines. And the defenders are about to get another break. Dysentery strikes the Lithuanian troops. Dysentery involves the inflammation of the lower intestine. Its symptoms are debilitating and vile. Terrible pain, vomiting, diarrhea, and such awful dehydration that the patients often die. It's contagious, and at this siege, it's ripping through the attackers' camp. The Lithuanian Grand Duke decides to withdraw his ailing forces. It's a devastating blow for Jagiello, and things are about to get even worse. The letters that von Plauen writes so carefully are paying off. There's rumours that mercenaries are approaching from the west. A local king is sending a relief force. One chronicler points out how foolish it was for the attackers to let these defenders communicate with the outside world. It's not clear how these letters exchange hands, but their impact is undeniable. With a depleted force, a shortage of ammunition, and rumours of imminent reinforcements to bolster the knights, Jagiello is left with little choice. After 57 days of bombardment, he abandons the siege. Malbork's red brick walls and its determined garrison have outlasted the king's cannon. The castle remains in the hands of the Teutonic Knights. King Jagiello will return home empty-handed. He orders his men to set fire to their camp and prepares to leave behind the castle that has resisted him so bitterly. As his horse is brought to him, it's said, the chestnut steed fell down dead the minute he put his foot in the stirrup. The king's luck has well and truly changed. Within a month, the knights managed to recapture almost all of their lost territory. But despite this, over the following decades, their strength will gradually wane. Today, their powerful castle still stands, an enduring monument to their refusal to be driven from these lands.
Join Dan Snow for the story of the Battle of the Somme, new for discovery this Sunday at 7. And there are also extracts from the Battle Castle book online at discoveryuk.com.